and welcome back to our newest episode of the HR Insider. This month, our hot topic is healthcare.
And we are very excited to introduce my friend, Jim Hampton, with Birchall and Hampton of Oklahoma City. Jim, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
My business partner is Bill Birchall, hence the name Birchall and Hampton. We've been in business together since about 1981 and built a pretty successful practice providing employee benefits to mostly small employers in Oklahoma. And so we work with a number of different insurance carriers, but our main focus is on meeting the needs of those employer plan sponsors. And so that's what we do.
All right, thank you so much for coming. So Jim, what would you say is the most recent buzz in healthcare right now?
Well, in healthcare, it's reimbursements. It's trying to get paid for the services that are provided, both at the hospital level and at the physician level.
Okay.
And so they're fighting managed fee agreements. And we've heard recently the controversy with Integris Healthcare Systems and Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And they were at an impasse to come to an agreement so that the Blue Cross members, and they're the largest provider of healthcare insurance in the state, so they wanted their if their members were going to be able to access Integris physicians and the hospital, they needed to get this worked out. So there were several flurries of communications from both Blue Cross and Integris about this impasse. And it had a lot of people were alarmed. People were considering changing their physician relationships. And it would be difficult if you're in the middle of a series of treatments for something. Plus, we prefer to go to the physicians we wish to go to. Someone we've established a rapport. They know our records. But that was resolved in the midnight hour. And so Integris and Blue Cross came to an agreement. And now there are other healthcare providers that have similar concerns. This will be ongoing. There'll be more letters. I received a letter yesterday from Stillwater Medical Center, and they're at an impasse with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Now they're a much smaller provider than Integris. Integris is a statewide system, as is Mercy, and so those are the issues. I've served on the hospital board. I see the financing side. I see the biggest hit that a hospital will take is uncompensated care. So people come in, they have no insurance, you're required to treat them, there will be no reimbursement. I facetiously said when I was on a hospital board, we need to become a cash and carry hospital, and if you have money, we'll take care of you and we'll put you in a nice suite. Now that's facetious, you're not going to do that. But when you look at healthcare financing, from that standpoint, each month we look at our financials and you'd write off about half of your gross billing. Okay. And no other business can manage to do that. But what you look for is a quality third-party payer. Almost everybody comes in. Few people pay cash.
Right.
Many people can't even pay their portion, their co-insurance. So hospitals are, receive the money they receive from an insurance company or through Medicaid. Those payments are pretty small, Medicaid and Medicare, but that provides their cash flow.
Okay.
And the other aspect, we talk about third-party payers like Blue Cross and United Healthcare and Aetna. As I think of that, I think the market's shrinking. I used to be able to have 10, 12, 15 insurance carriers that I could show to a client. They've gotten out of the business. So many have gotten out. You're down to pretty much you're down to Blue Cross, United Healthcare, and Aetna. Then you have some homegrown plans like Community Care, which is an HMO with a PPO in there as an option.
Maybe you kind of mentioned this, but I wasn't sure if this is what you were saying, that for the small business, they fly under the radar. At what level do they not have to provide insurance to their employees if they have less than how many employees?
Well, under 50 employees, you don't have those mandates, and you don't have some of the owner's costs. But the pressure a small employer like you have, like you and people you might work with, is competitiveness.
Okay.
Or
So-
we need to offer
So
it.
you need to pay a fair wage,
Right.
so you have that pressure. And typically, on income and profit and loss statements, the most expensive, outside of raw material, if you manufacture something, your raw material is most expensive. Next to that is your payroll cost,
Yes.
and right below that's your healthcare insurance. I mean, and so, I mean, a lot of our clients point how the cost of doing business with us is risen to where it's up there, not on a par payroll, but it's getting up there.
Well, the last question that we'll ask you today is the most recent, or the healthcare laws that were kind of changing last year was about the birth control and that you can deny it for
Yeah.
religious or moral purposes. I have so many questions with that specific ruling that, I would assume that as a small business, if you have less than 50 employees, it doesn't really matter to you.
It doesn't matter because the insurance companies are gonna cover oral contraceptives as part of the drug plan.
But if you're in a business that does that chooses that option, what does your employee have that they can do?
Well, first of all, in oral contraception, the cost is pretty low. So your birth control pills on a monthly basis aren't very expensive. I mean, they're, obviously they've been out on the market for years,
Right.
well established, generic form of the medication. It's more expensive if you wish to have an IUD as your method of birth control, but and that requires some follow-up care with the physician, but those off visits are covered by a copay. So the option someone would have, if for some reason their employer, the plan the employer provides doesn't cover oral contraception, then they got to pay it, but it's not much money.
So you should be able to work with your primary care
Yeah.
provider and say, my business or my company provides this specific insurance plan. Will you work with me on still prescribing me a birth control pill or
Yeah.
whatever?
I don't believe
that's
there's
affordable,
any
that's affordable.
of all of our groups, we have hundreds of companies that we work with. I don't believe any of them deny the oral contraceptives.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You helped answer a few of the hundreds of questions
Yeah.
that as small business owners and larger companies could have about what do we do. But it sounds
Yeah.
like communicating, having a good broker
Mhm.
and communicating with them on what is the best policy for my employees and for my business, and then having your employees having the education to communicate with the
Mhm.
primary care provider on what they can do if their insurance plan does happen to get to that midnight hour and they don't know
Yeah.
if they can continue, that could
And
affect so many
communication
different
is
things.
important, and so,
Well, we appreciate having
Thank
you
you for
tonight.
having me.
Thank you very
So
much.
nice
Thank
to see
you.
you. Thank you
Good
for
to
your
see you.
time.
thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the HR Insider. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube and like us on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for further shows that we do, and leave us a comment if you have any questions.
Also, we would love your ideas for more topics, so if you have ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Thanks again.
Thanks.